Hello, and welcome to the Lightship Global Jam European Closing Ceremony powered by Niantic and Playcrafting. I am your host, Holly Peppermint, and I am once again joined by the amazing CEO and founder of Playcrafting, Dan Butchko. Playcrafting partnered up with AR technology company Niantic, the creator of augmented reality hits we know and love, like Pokémon Go and Harry Potter Wizards Unite, to power a global AR software jam this summer.
That's right. And this jam is running all around the world through September. Up to 60 developers are being selected and paid to participate. Each receives training and a workshop about Niantic Lightship, and then creates their own games and experiences with the Lightship AR development kit. Now, Niantic Lightship encompasses the full Niantic platform, including the suite of tools and services that power Niantic's own games. Niantic Lightship ARDK is a robust set of tools that enable developers to create multiplayer experiences and bring them to life with things like depth, physics, occlusion, and semantic segmentation. Now, if you didn't already know, Playcrafting is a game development company that fosters a massive network of developers around the world. Hopefully you know that already because you're on our channel, but hey, we have new folks joining us all the time. We connect these developers to exciting new opportunities and technologies like Lightship to help generate games and experiences that might not have otherwise been possible. Now, today we're concluding the European leg of the Lightship Global Jam, which ran from July 25th to July 31st. This is our second of our 3 legs of the jam. Our final jam will be coming up in Japan on August 29th through September 4th. Playcrafting and Niantic are in the process of selecting participating developers from Japan based on their experience, diversity, and studio size. Head on over to lightshipglobaljam.com if you're a developer and you're interested in applying and learning more. Now, we're looking for developers to build games and experiences with the overarching themes of discovery, exploration, and getting people together. The software doesn't have to just be AR games, though. It can include things like fitness, sports, social impact, entertainment, music, travel apps, and more. Apps can even be created using other technologies, which then use the Lightship ARDK to bring them to life.
And throughout this whole process, Niantic will also be funding these awesome teams to spend a week developing their games and apps with an emphasis on some of Lightship's key features like real-time mapping, multiplayer, and semantic segmentation, all while supporting them through the process as they learn the ARDK. So this has been such an exciting week. I am very excited to just jump right into what everyone's been working on. But before we catch up with our teams, let's take a look at some of the highlights from this European Jam.
All right. Well, now it's time to see more of what one of our teams came up with and made this week. So first up from the UK, it's Be Loudest.
So the project that we've been working on over the course of the jam is called Starbloom. Starbloom is meant to be a location-based science fiction role-playing game, which has a focus around growing things on the surface of the planet with the objective of eradicating a species of plant called the dark vine, which is taking over the entire universe. We started the project by first fleshing out our sort of game design idea, what our main 3D components were going to be, so Oliver could keep busy with that right from the beginning, and then hopefully have those assets ready midway through the project. The same again for Gareth, who's working on the audio. I wanted him to be able to focus on what needed to be created without having the visual cues. So that needed a strong idea from the beginning, but nonetheless the guys got straight in and started making some good content. The science fiction sort of twist is there is a ship called the Stardrop, which is moving around the surface of the planet, dropping various loot items for players to pick up. And this idea come about from the vision of having lots of objects dropping down onto the ground with a large group of people potentially who would be experiencing that same drop and sort of rushing to grab the loot before someone else could grab it. So it's very much about a game about being in the right time at the right place to gain loot. By midweek we were making really good progress with our kind of content creation and the dark vine aspect of the project and also the star drop. So we sort of had three main components to our projects. One being the dark vine itself, so I wanted the players to be able to see the dark vine and get a sense of fear when they see it and know why they're playing the game. And then at that point, once they're introduced to the dark vine, they get introduced to the star drop, which then should be sort of awe-inspiring and quite exciting for the player. Once they get some loot from the star drop, they can take it back to their home base where they have a sort of crafting space using a bit of equipment that the star drop gave you called the fabricator. Using the fabricator, then you could create seeds to plant wherever you want across the surface of the earth in your kind of gardens or shared gardens, which would then fight back the dark vine. So I think we've covered some real strong points of the ARDK. Those two strong points being meshing, which is very reliable, works really well. Quite excited to see what we can do with that in the future, and then also semantic segmentation.
Now let's welcome back our next team representing Prague. It's Jord.
Psst, over here. There you are. I've been looking for you. My name is Isim. I'm an alchemist. I need your help. Do you know the story of the Prague Golem? Legend has it, the Golem was created to protect this city. Whoever activates the Golem controls it.
So I have prepared the fully completed concept map. So now I'm working on the 3D part. So I have found a few 3D models of the golem and all of our assets.
We incorporate like real locations. So we want to we need to like scan the entire location, and we also add some kind of geofencing to it so that we're sure that the user has reached the destination.
We have been finalizing the design for each of our 5 stages, so we have both the game design and storyline sorted, and I've also been reworking the experience so that it's divided into bite-sized chunks that each take 3 to 4 minutes to complete. Today we've been working on the second stage of our experience, which has you selecting stone tablets with Hebrew numerals on them, and you have to press them in an ascending order.
Next, I'm going to look at the stage 3, which is the mini game with like destroying all the rats that are running around. Currently, I work on the stage 5, which is the remote war mini game, or more likely a battle with the final boss, the first stage. So yeah, I started playing around with controlling the remote war with the nav mesh agent, and still working on it.
Today we finalized our 3D and 2D parts. So now we're having our final part of the golem texturing and put the animation to the game, and we'll be ready soon.
creative and technical exploration wouldn't be so rewarding without overcoming challenges. So this next panel will be focused more on the jam experience and talking about challenges that came up and how each team faced them. Joining me now from Be Loudest is Stuart, and from Jord is Tomas. Welcome, both of you. How are we feeling today?
Hi, feeling great, thanks.
It's great to be here.
So I would love to find out more about what both of you created with your teams this week. I'll start with Stu. Can you please tell us more about what your team created?
So our team has made, I suppose, what you could call a location-based sci-fi science fiction role-playing game. It's called Starbloom, and the focus of the game is growing gardens to fight off an evil species of plant called the Dark Vine, which is taking over the entire universe. The science fiction twist is there is a ship that is traveling around Earth, delivering various loot items for players to collect, to then take back to their home base and craft various sort of seeds or tools for growing their gardens. So you'll see here on the live stream, the video clip there, that's the star drop, and it's dropping like vials of, like I suppose you could call DNA containers, which then you can use to fabricate items using our fabricator object. So yeah, it is really interesting. We tried to keep it very simple in terms of gameplay, but we wanted it to be visually pleasing to the eye and quite exciting, and be able to kind of quickly test the meshing features within the ARDK.
I was going to say, it already looks so visually stunning for just such a short amount of time. And I love the looting aspect. I'm a very meticulous looter when I play games, so I can already see that that will be a draw for a lot of players.
Yeah, we kind of like this whole idea of having these portals on the ship, which could potentially throw anything out of them, that theoretically. So, you know, we're kind of unlimited on what we could give to our players in the future. So we shall see where that goes.
I love that. So Tomas, can you please tell me more about what you and your team created this week?
Okay, so we designed our experience to be a platform basically for sharing interactive location-based content, and we wanted to focus primarily on multiplayer. So the example experience is called Golem Story, and it has you exploring streets of Prague's Old Town, where you will meet a mysterious alchemist seeking to reanimate the mystical golem, which you can see on the screen right now. And you have to find out whether his intentions are pure or whether he perhaps has some ulterior motives. So it's a 20-minute experience. Originally, we wanted it to be played back to back, but after encountering some technical issues, we split it into discrete stages. So some of the stages will have you perhaps learning about the Hebrew writing system and the numerals. Other stages will have you guiding bombs, shooting lasers in multiplayer, killing rats, etc.
And does the golem have a name? I'm just curious. It's just golem.
We just called him a golem. Yeah, it's basically an old tale, and we haven't made the experience so that it's like historically or mythologically accurate. So it's basically our own take on the entire story.
Well, he's adorable, so I just figured I'd ask. So, Tomas, your team's project was designed to be experienced in a very specific part of Prague. So what kinds of unique challenges did that present for your team?
Okay, well, the first challenge that we encountered was that there was quite a bit of people around the area, even when it comes to the times we're living in. I was quite surprised by the amount of people in the historic center. And the second issue that I wanted to mention is that when we wanted to shoot the video on Saturday, we haven't realized that Jewish people are celebrating Shabbat. So all the areas that we wanted to get to were closed because some of the experiences take place in the courtyard of the
synagogues. So we had to alter our plans. But the experience, even though it's based in Prague, we actually disabled geofencing, so you can experience it for yourself in the comfort of your own home, provided you have sufficient space.
Well, that sounds great that you're able to experience that outside of Prague, and I'm sure it might also present an interesting opportunity to do experiences like this based on the histories of certain cities, depending on where in the world you are, whatever myths that they have. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. That was the goal. Like, yeah.
So, Stuart, I'd like to turn it back to you. What was the biggest challenge faced by your team this week?
I think the biggest challenge was time, actually, more than anything. You know, we had a concept, and for example, Gareth, our sound designer, was having to design sounds based on a concept which hadn't been completed visually. So, you know, that's always a challenge. And then Oliver was having to work quick to create the models that we needed to be ready sort of midweek for me to then implement. So yeah, time is definitely the challenge, but technically speaking, the ARDK is quite complex. So there was a learning curve on this as well from my side. So yeah, that was the main challenge, to be honest.
Time always seems to be the biggest specter during these jams, but it seems like you guys managed to improvise perfectly with the time given. So everything turned out great, I think. So, Tomas, I'd like to ask you, given how complex your project was with all of the different stages in your experience, which stage was the biggest challenge to develop?
So as for, we've kind of divided the focus on different ARDK features between myself and Philip. So Philip tackled semantic segmentation and depth occlusion, and I had to go at multiplayer because I have prior experience with multiplayer libraries in Unity. So as for myself personally, the biggest challenge was the sixth stage, which basically has you shooting lasers at a golem, and it was as previously said, it was a learning experience. I had to use both the low level and the high level API, and yeah, it took quite a while, and it was quite difficult to debug actually, because you have to make you always have to make a build for both devices when you're working with 2 or 3 peers at the same time. So it took quite a bit of time, and yeah, so we probably should have designed a simpler experience, but in the end, I think you know, I'm quite happy with what we have.
Never go for simple. Always go for the biggest thing that you could possibly think of, and then everything will work out along the way. That's what I've learned with these jams. You'll surprise yourself eventually. So I'm hearing from both of you that this was a learning experience. Stuart, you mentioned that there was a bit of a learning curve with the Lightship ARDK. So I'd like to ask Stuart, which feature of Lightship brought the most change to your workflow, and did that present any unique challenges?
I would say the meshing feature was our main focus. So that definitely brought the greatest change to the workflow. The ARDK does include some tools for like creating, I suppose, like using a mock-up within Unity. So you could export a mesh that you've generated by scanning an environment via your mobile, save it, export it into Unity, and then be able to test that mesh within Unity without connecting to the remote device, which the ARDK offers as well. But in the end, I went for just building a test scene within Unity where I could kind of test my scripts and whatnot, and then I would put them into the live sort of scene that I was testing on mobile, and that seemed to be a quicker iteration time for me and less faff. And then also I was able to kind of, you know, not get caught up with just working with one mesh at the time. So yeah, that was probably the biggest workflow change. There was also another element with meshing, which is revolving around how traditionally using something along using ARKit or AR Core, the focus would be working with plane anchors provided by those SDKs. And with the meshing setup, you're kind of working with a mesh which is very dynamic and changes in geometric shape in real time as you're scanning. So that also changed the way in which you was placing items down on the surface. So you had to write a few tools to kind of make sure your objects were being anchored onto that surface rather than using a plane anchor provided traditionally by other SDKs.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, Tomas, my next question for you is, do you have advice for other creators who may face challenges working with cutting edge tech?
So I think that the biggest piece of advice I can give you, and I think that applies to pretty much everything that you're going to do with cutting edge tech, is to first make a proof of concept to check whether what you want to build is currently possible with state of the art of the technology. We made, like, one of the mistakes that we made was to design one of the stages of our experience around depth occlusion, and we didn't realize that the CV algorithm that is used with chip will have issues separating a black sneaker from a basically pavement. So we had to redo that experience so that the tablets that you select are spread around the person rather than on the floor. So, and we didn't realize it when we were building it, because we were iteratively building it in our office, and of course the experience, like environment, is different. So it's a very unique challenge when it comes to AR and to location-based experiences, because you usually test it in the comfort of your office or at home, but then you have to go to the place or the location where you want to test it out. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Well, thank you for that advice. And how about you, Stuart? Do you have any advice for creators working with cutting edge tech?
I could give you a lot of advice. The first thing that comes from the top of my mind is to just focus on one section at a time and make sure you learn it inside out, and try not to just glaze over it and take on too much at the same time. Just be very focused.
Staying focused is definitely the name of the game. So now my next question is for Tomas. Would you please walk us through your team's process of tackling challenges?
Okay, so first off, we started with designing the experience, and then we've moved into the conceptual phase. So we've kind of threw ideas back and forth for the various stages, and then we started coding. I have to admit I'm not the best team leader there is, so we had quite a bit of issues at the tail end of the jam, but so we had to work on until the very end to complete everything. And since our team was composed, basically we had 2 people working on art and 2 people coding. We kind of it was a very kind of asynchronous experience. So yeah, I think I could have done better when it comes to leading the team, but in the end it turned out okay.
So would you say you're proud of your team for the way that they approach these challenges?
Absolutely. I think they've done a tremendous job.
That's great. Stuart, can you please tell me what you would change about your approach to future jams?
A very similar answer to Thomas, actually, and that would be to bring on an extra programmer, actually, to help me at the beginning stages, because there's lots of planning to be done when you're trying to lead the team on artwork and audio and tie that all together. And whilst you're doing that, it's very hard to be absorbing a new ARDK in a short amount of time. So it would have been great to have someone else to kind of lean on to help with various sort of tasks that need to be done, which were being absorbed time-wise by focusing on other things.
And planning is definitely the thing that sets you up for success, especially in a jam like this one. So that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Stuart, for that. So my final question is going to be for Tomas. What are you most proud of your team for from the last week of jamming? I know I asked if you were proud of how you tackled challenges, but are there any other things that you're proud of your team for from this last week?
I think I'm most proud of the team just sticking with it and creating experience. For many of my colleagues, it was their first jam, and for myself, it was the first 1 week long jam, which presents its own kind of set of problems, and mostly of like mental problems, because it's hard to keep focus for such a long time. And I had issues with that myself, but in the end, everything turned out okay.
That's great. And Stuart, what are you most proud of your team for from this past week?
I'm most proud of my team for just successfully creating the star drop that you saw in the demo videos. I had this vision in my head of what I wanted it to be and what I wanted it to do, and they weren't quite sure of where I was going with it, but they kept with it. And over the course of the week, it all come together, and we actually created what I set out to create from the beginning with that vision. So yeah, I'm really proud of the guys for doing that, and they've worked really hard, worked really quick. So yeah, they did really well. It was good fun.
It's always such a special moment in the creative process when the thing that you've envisioned in your brain somehow manifests in front of you through your work. It's so rewarding.
Yeah,
Right.
it wasn't exactly the same, but we almost had a sort of happy accident, and we was like, oh, this is cool, let's keep it. So happy accidents.
And it's
are good
almost
as well.
better in a way because it ended up being what you made and you love it more than whatever you envisioned.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Stuart and Tomas. We'll hear from you both later on about where your projects may go in the future. I can't wait to learn all about it.
Wow, great stuff. It's so nice to be able to hear a developer's sort of like in real time input as they are sort of diving into a new technology and only given, that constraint of a week to build something with it. Holly, what were some of your biggest takeaways from your conversation with them?
I was very impressed, first of all, at how Tomas mentioned that it was many of his team members' first jams and it was his first week-long jam. Because when you look at the quality of the experience that they put out for just a week being the first jam, it's incredible. So they have a lot to be proud of themselves. And I was also really impacted by the fact that Stuart seemed to have a lot of really great ideas for the future of Lightship. So clearly they both have very good heads on their shoulders with this process, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And it's surprising to hear that this is the first time that a lot of the team members were jamming too, because everybody in this jam has been like selected and vetted and sort of chosen for their experience. And so cool to see how this was their first jam, and yet they still were able to turn out something that looks so exciting after such a short period of time. And this is just the beginning of these projects, obviously.
Imagine what they'll do with their third jam or their fifth.
Yeah, or even just with 2 or 3 more weeks on these projects alone. So it's exciting to see sort of where they can go from here. All right, well, thank you again to our panelists. Before we check out the progress of our next teams, what is 5G and why does it matter? At Niantic, they are utilizing 5G and multi-axis edge computing to provide the future of mobile gaming. Check this out.
These explorers are about to take on their biggest challenge yet, and they're going to need everything they've got, including the blazing fast speeds of 5G technology. But what exactly is 5G? It's the next generation of wireless network technology, designed to expand the bandwidth and speed of existing mobile networks, so that you can level up your mobile gaming like never before. But that's not all, because Player 2 has entered the game. Multi-Access Edge Computing, or MEC, is a new form of data processing and the future of multiplayer mobile gaming. MEC works by decentralizing the cloud, allocating resources closer to the gamers as needed, allowing for instant response times so that they can enjoy incredibly stable performance with almost zero lag. The technology is already here, and at Niantic, we've created the Niantic Planet Scale AR Alliance, an alliance between Niantic and the telecom industry. Working together, we're building an ecosystem to deliver the next generation of AR gaming, lag-free, with a stable connection, all over 5G. What does this mean for you? It means who has the fastest internet will no longer be a question. You and your fellow explorers will have a consistent and reliable gaming experience, regardless of where you are or what you're playing. Even if you're on different sides of the world, you'll enjoy the same high speeds and low latency using 5G technology. 4G is in the past. Niantic and 5G are here now, and the future is in your hands.
All right, welcome back. Let's jump back in to see what our next team made. Representing Italy, it's TNTC, aka Tough Nut to Crack.
Hello there, Matteo here. I'm with Theo and Eric. In the morning we have planned the week. We will concentrate on the semantic segmentation feature. We will try to understand how to customize the graphic part. I think we will have a lot of fun with it.
So we have a little update. It seems that our idea is working using the resulting texture from the segmentation.
We'll also work with the meshing feature, trying to start to add our custom graphic onto the mesh that we will track and find with our devices.
One idea we have is to create a sort of route, a sort of procedural highway around the mesh, creating from the meshing algorithm.
Tonight start working to the sound design or our app for the Lightship Jam. Let's get to work. And now we are testing our procedural generation of ivy into the ground. We are applying forward raycast on the camera, and we want to fill all the space with some green ivy.
Hey, it's Friday. We have just finished lunch and I'm here with Eric and Theo.
This afternoon we are going to integrate in our app all the assets we are producing in these days.
We will put everything on the mesh generated by the meshing algorithm, and we will see what came out.
Hello, it's Saturday and we are wrapping up our application. We are creating the last details, and in particular at the moment I'm creating the texture of the leaf. As you can see, the leaf have the texture.
Hey yo, I'm testing the first version of the Lightship Gem here, and we are really happy with the result. The ARDK is awesome, and this is the result. Let's see it together.
We have reached the end of our Jam week. We are a little tired, but we are really happy with the result we have achieved. So from the bottom of our heart, we would like to say thank you. And see you next time. Ciao!
I just wanted to point out that collection of nutcrackers in the office because, you know, tough
On
nut to
brand.
crack. Nothing if not on brand. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at our next team representing Germany. It's Invisible Toys.
Hi guys!
Hi! I finished doing the UI part and switches to implementation of the AR part. Then I'm going to create respective animation according to the game scenario. Opening the box of gold.
What part of the game are you working at right now?
I am involved in the development of the scariest part of the game, the invasion of spiders.
I really enjoyed ARDK. Especially I like the code design of low-level networking. Now I'm working on the game core and multiplayer integration.
What is the best place to play this game?
I think not in the office. I'd recommend playing outside with your friends.
Wow. Can I just say that as a kid who was constantly in the backyard playing with bugs on the ground, that one part of their escape room game just like very much spoke to me, and I love the idea of like integrating that into an outdoor space in this sort of escape room setup. So cool. All right. Well, finally, we have one more team to go. Our fifth team of developers rounding out from our European leg of the jam is Delta Reality, who put together this amazing demo experience reel. Check it out.
Merging reality with the virtual world has been a sci-fi vision for a long time. Niantic Lightship allowed us to start working towards that vision. When we were invited to the week-long Lightship Global Jam, we knew that with their new SDK, we wanted to blur the line between digital and physical reality. As the first step, we created an augmented reality experience for the wonderful Zrinjevac Park in Zagreb. By using the Lightship meshing system, we were free to build an experience in which you can interact fully with your environment. Experience where digital objects completely respond to the real world. In the second step, we created a digital inversion of the park for desktop and virtual reality. Everything realistic in the virtual world is digital in the real world, and vice versa. Think of it like an upside-down digital twin. Next, we connected the two. Anything that affects the real world also affects the virtual world, and anything that happens in the virtual world affects the real one. Finally, and most importantly, we added people to the experience. By using the Lightship multiplayer system, you can now have a shared augmented reality experience in the same location. But it can do even more than that. Someone in the real world using augmented reality can interact with someone in the virtual world as if they were in the same place. At the end of the Lightship Global Jam week, the end result was a merged digital and physical world where people can interact and communicate in new ways. With Niantic Lightship, creators can now lay down the foundations for an interconnected metaverse. This technology enables new and amazing experiences in the places you visit. Moreover, those places are brought closer to visitors all over the world.
as we mentioned in the opening of this jam, exploration, movement, and getting people together are this jam's core themes. So joining us from Delta Reality is Darian, from Invisible Toys is Norai, and finally from TNTC is Matteo. Thank you to the three of you for joining me today.
Great to be here.
All right, so I'm going to ask you all a few questions, and I'm going to start with Darian. Can you tell us more about what your team created this week?
Oh, I hope that I won't be the first because this will last. Okay, so we've created a cross reality metaverse, and I know that metaverse is a term that really is misused terribly in the last couple of weeks, but we are going into the era of metaverse, so what the hell, we can use it. So we've created an augmented reality application, and we've created the virtual reality application for the Zrinjevac Park in my city of Zagreb. Yeah, you can see what we have done. So anything that you see through augmented reality that is digital in the park is realistic at the same time inside virtual reality. So that is the first step that we have done. The second step is we have connected the two. So everything you do through augmented reality in park, you can see it in virtual reality happening, and vice versa. And the third component, and the most important component, is that we have people inside the experience. So Niantic Lightship not only gave us the possibility to create multiplayer experience, localized multiplayer experience in augmented reality, but it also allowed us to connect augmented reality with virtual reality. So using your smartphone, you can see avatars of people in virtual reality in the same space, physical space with you. And in virtual reality, you can see people walking in the park, real people walking in the park using application represented as avatars. So it's a little complicated. Once you'll see the video, I think it will be at least a little bit clearer what we have done.
So it seems like you've successfully been able to combine these components in a very exciting way in such a short amount of time. You have a lot to be proud of, you and your team.
Thank you. So yeah, it was really a stupid idea to try to do something like that in a week, so we can really all burn out.
That's what these jams are for.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was talking with the team, so we are not satisfied of things, but my colleague said, look, dude, we have created a little part of the metaverse in a week. Shut up, it's all good.
There you go. It's about trying the craziest idea you can think of and then being shocked when it actually works.
Yeah, that's right.
So Norai, I'd like to turn the question to you. Can you please tell us a little bit more about what your team created?
Yeah, sure. We decided to, first of all, when we saw that there is a multiplayer in the list of features in the Lightship ARDK, we definitely decided to use it because we are multiplayer addicts, let's say so. So we definitely decided to go with multiplayer, and then came the idea of doing a quest, AR quest, inspired by escape rooms. The concept is escape rooms, but in a different way. So we created this this quest for playing together with friends. The idea is, so there is a timer, and the idea is to kill the spiders that are popping up. The more gold you can take from the greedy leprechaun. So that's in a nutshell.
Well, I think that's a very unique experience to create, to take that escape room angle for this AR project. So I think that's very cool.
Thank you.
So I'm going to turn the question now over to Matteo. Can you please tell us more about what you and your team created this week?
Yeah, sure. Our idea is called the Blossom World AR, and it's very basic in the sense that you need to explore your environment. You can go through the streets, you can go in the center of your city, you need to walk. And while you're walking, the world generates around you procedurally, so randomly, the ivies. So you see these ivies that grows on the surfaces that are around you, and they perfectly match the shapes of the real objects that are around you. And apart seeing them, you have a little game inside the experience where you have to choose to collect an evil or a good collectible. If you take a evil collectible, you turn the world into a darkness place. So the ivy get darker, get torn, come pop out, and things like that. And in the opposite, if you collect good things, you get a beautiful flower and all things like that. The world is shared, so if you collect something, each player that is currently wandering through the world sees the changes, and that's all. We really try to exploit the ARDK and find the most usable and cool feature in it.
It's so cool to see how seamlessly it blends into the shapes of the environment, the vines. That's a really cool concept. I love that we can see what's possible now with this technology. So I really like that a lot. So Dadian, I'd like to turn it back to you for a second because your team had a very unique project that blends AR and VR, which we talked about a little bit before. So can you tell us why your team is so passionate about bringing these different groups together in one shared experience?
Well, the reason why I have started the company Delta Reality is specifically because of the mixed reality, specifically because of the mixed reality era that we are going to go into, where you can really pick what you want to see from the real world, and you can be able to pick what you want to see from the virtual world. So, for example, Niantic is working on the glasses. A couple of months ago, they have had a tweet about it. And I'm really interested in what Niantic is doing with the AR glasses and passionate about the future of this mixed reality future that we are going to go into. So that was basically our idea for the company and our methodology for the last 5 years. And when we were called to this, we had two ideas. We had some different idea with sky segmentation, but really we saw the possibility of using Niantic Lightship to achieve something that we dreamed of for the last couple of years. And I think it was really a chance that we needed to take and go into that direction.
That's very exciting. I'd like to turn it over to Matteo. Your team's experience seems to be all about exploration. So why did your team decide to pursue this theme?
We really like the meshing feature and how it works in real time, so that you can walk, you can go around, and it is really responsive and it works really well. So, in base on this fact, we wanted something that an experience that brings you outside, make you go for a walk, and do something explorative. And this is the main reason why we did this choose this.
That's awesome. So, Nurai, I'd like to ask you, your team's multiplayer quest experience leans into all of our themes. So I would like to ask you, what would you say the most important theme was to your team in this build?
So as you mentioned, we combined three themes. We tried to combine three of them: exploration, movement, and getting things done together. However, from my point of view, we neglected a bit the exploration theme, because what we had in mind to implement outside, utilizing semantic segmentation and meshing, it wasn't, due to lack of time, it wasn't implemented. However, I think, so right now, what was implemented in this demo, it's more around multiplayer and having fun together.
That's fantastic. So, Dadian, what were some of the lessons learned by your team during the jam?
Not to leave, because I think that my idea is really too big of a scope, and it's really, from my perspective, stupid idea to even propose, but my team didn't tell that to me, so I'm blaming them. So that is the main lesson. I don't know if it's usable to other developer teams. And regarding the development, so multiplayer aspect really opened our eyes for what can be. Sorry, Niantic Lightship really opened our eyes for what can be done in multiplayer augmented reality. Because until now we thought about multiplayer augmented reality like playing a board game where players are invisible. But Niantic Lightship really showed us that even players can be a part of the experience. They can be interactive part. They can be, let's put them, targets. So it's more like creating a FPS game or virtual reality game where you can shoot the player, interact with player, than standard multiplayer experience that we had until now. That was really an eye-opening from my perspective, that now we can create those kind of multiplayer interactive augmented reality experiences with player being at the center stage.
That is so exciting. You saw what might be possible and you thought, yeah, we can do that. It's no big deal.
Yeah, excitable is one word for it.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You said it was too big of a scope. I say you're just taking baby steps towards a bigger vision. So my last question is going to be for Matteo first. I'll ask you, where would you like to take your jam project going forward?
Oh, there are many things that we would like to experiment. And for example, we would like to add the depth to our experience, so that when you see the ivy grows around you, if you go behind a tree or behind a car, you don't see it anymore. And it will add a very sense of realism to the application. And also we would like to add many other content to make it more attractive and explorative, so that, for example, you need to walk and see tot meters of the city to reach a goal, or implement mechanics like that give you and make the experience unique. So yeah, we would like to work on it and add many features also from the ARDK.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here.
Thanks.
Narai, I would ask you the same question. Where would you like to see your jam project go in the future?
I would say there are two options. The simple one is to go the same way and to create new levels of this fun game, just polishing and utilizing other features like I mentioned, meshing, semantic segmentation, and the other more complicated but still but more interesting and more exciting is to go into the direction of building a full-fledged escape room in AR. So we are thinking. I think we will certainly start from the simple version. So making the current game filled with new scenarios, utilizing other features. But we will have in mind that such concept can be implemented and can be evolved into something bigger, like a full-fledged escape room.
That would be super cool to see. I'm a longtime fan of escape room games, even before they became a physical thing. So I would certainly be interested to see a game like that. That would be very cool.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much, Darian, Norai, and Matteo. And thank you again for taking the time to discuss these core jam themes of exploration, movement, and getting people together.
Thank you for the amazing opportunity.
Thank you.
Wow. As usual, I feel like all three of those devs were like super muted about how much they did accomplish and so
I know.
focused on what they want to improve or where they want to go from here or things they would have sort of changed along the way. It's amazing to see these games and experiences out in the wild being tested in the real world, multiplayer in there for at least one of them. What are some of your thoughts, Holly?
It's definitely the creator mindset. You're constantly worried about what's the next step in your project and what it will eventually look like. Hardly do you take the time to sort of step back and look and say, hey, we just made all of that in a week. Like, especially Dadian, when he was saying it's such a big scope, my team should have told me it was too much. I was very surprised because I was like, it seems like you guys handled it pretty well.
Yeah, totally. And considering it was just a week, look how far they got it. It's super impressive stuff. Yeah. Well, as we mentioned, tonight is the conclusion of our European leg of the Lightship Global Jam. But last month, we did hold our North American leg of the journey, where teams Dev Branch, Urban Electronics, 3 Division, and Petrichord created some really amazing apps and games. Let's take a quick look back on what went down last time.
What most excites me about augmented reality is the ability to bring things from the realm of the abstract into the realm of the concrete, actually pulling things from the digital realm and bringing them in some way, shape, or form to make them more real to us. And obviously augmented reality is that tool.
Instead of taking a user out of their environment, out of the real world to experience something, you bring a new and different kind of experience into their environment.
It'll be nice to see kind of something that goes beyond kind of the base ARK, AR core. The thing that detects the sky seems fascinating to me. It'll be interesting to see what we can do using that tech.
It's a new space to explore and there's no real rules that anyone has to follow yet. It's kind of like a Wild West of development in some ways.
Our original inspiration was Monument Valley. I feel like we were able to get a lot of mileage out of a really simple execution and a really simple aesthetic.
Implementing the touch controls for everything has to have a sort of real strong haptic reaction to it. Everything you have to slide, turn, while you guide this little man, the golem, to enter into the planet and play the tune.
So we had a pet simulator, and our objective was to be able to make a multiplayer race. There's this thing called mock environments within the SDK, and then within that, these things called mock meshes. And these meshes are so cool, right? So you take your phone, you paint your entire environment, and you take the file off of the phone, and you can put it into Unity, and then like the room that you mapped shows up over there. And I just thought that was so awesome. So when we actually finally adopted that and actually got it to work within our pipeline, our workflow, then the race came out exactly as we wanted it to, and then we played it on the phone and it showed up.
So we ended up making something called interdimensional AR camera. I think like 5 minutes into the meeting, we were just like, yeah, let's WarioWare? Like, yeah, we're in. We wanted it to be something that you could basically play wherever, and depending on where you play it, the games themselves would kind of adapt. How quickly the meshing was being done by Lightship is, one, insane. We kind of cheated a little bit. The first mini game is specifically made to just like map out the area. That alone was kind of what like shaped everything around it.
Basically, we were working on something that's kind of like an AR video chat. And the idea is that, your friends could join video and you could see them in the space around you. Normally, we're putting you into the experience so that you can experience the virtual environment. But with this application, we wanted to actually take the virtual elements, in this case, your friends joining you virtually, and bring them into your space. You can see where people are looking when you have 3 dimensions. You can hear somebody in front of you or behind you when you have 3 dimensions. There's a sense of closeness or even like personal space. So being able to pull that into augmented reality with the Lightship is really cool because it just adds another dimension, gives you another way to experience virtual interaction.
That 3D mapping is very hard to do with conventional augmented reality technologies. The SDK allows you to really, again, map that entire environment. And that whole racing feature that we made, we wouldn't have even thought about making for another 6 months or maybe even a year. But as you can see here, we were ambitious and the SDK was extremely full of features. So we were able to knock it out in a week.
Like right now, we kind of proved, yes, we can take something, shove it into a phone. We want to expand what's in the phone to something more like what Niantic's been doing and expand it into the real world.
Being able to try out a new space or take existing experience and apply it in a new way can be slow, can take a lot of time and a lot of extra learning. But having this tool set kind of right out of the bag just makes it a lot easier to iterate and get through that initial grind to get something that's actually enjoyable and plays like you'd expect it to.
So I feel like making AR as a whole like really accessible to people that might not have a coding background is just going to be like a huge game changer, and will definitely allow people that might be intimidated by a process that might otherwise be really complex to give it a try.
Welcome back. Now, obviously, Lightship is new technology that many folks are just now getting their hands on for the very first time. Holly caught up with a couple of our developers to find out what new capabilities have been unlocked in their workflows by leveraging the Lightship ARDK.
Lightship Unleashed. Let's chat with a couple of our developers to find out what new capabilities have been unlocked in their workflows by leveraging the Lightship ARDK. Joining us again from Yord is Tomas, from Be Loudest is Stuart, and finally from Delta Reality is Dadian. Thank you three so much for being here again to talk to me. Dadian, in your team spotlight video for our opening stream, you referred to Lightship as the holy grail of AR, which is still one of my favorite descriptions. So what about Lightship made you feel that way? And was there anything new that you learned about it in the week of the jam that excited you?
Well, I see that term will definitely follow me from now on. So even before Lightship, we were following the real-world platform that Niantic was creating, and I think of the real-world platform, so of the persistent cloud augmented reality. That for me is definitely a holy grail of augmented reality, because that is the last missing piece for the smartphone augmented reality to be, let's put it that way, completed. And I see that Niantic is definitely going into that direction with their Lightship technology. And currently, the features that we have worked on, it's meshing, it's segmentation, it's multiplayer. We have mostly focused on meshing, and it's really amazing. So we have created a project for mixed reality glasses, so we know our way around real-time dynamic meshing, but we really didn't think that something that is depthless sensor like a normal camera inside that can have so good of a real-time mesh as Lightship does. And the multiplayer part, it's really amazing. I already discussed that it opened really a ton of possibility for us for the future of our work, and it's really drag and drop functionality. And especially the way that you can follow other users, it was really, I wouldn't say mind-blowing, but really opened a lot of creative paths for us from now on.
That's super exciting. So now I will turn this question to Tomas. As we discussed earlier, your team's project was extremely ambitious with 6 stages planned for a 1-week jam. So beyond those stages, were there any great ideas for future experiences that didn't quite make it into this jam?
So first of all, that it's not a good idea to be overambitious in a 7-day jam. And there were a couple of stages that didn't make the cut, but what we've made is kind of this platform for sharing experiences, and we're kind of hoping to expand on it. And I think it would be great to have it as a sort of crowdsourced application that basically unites people together and shows them interesting places around their local town, for perhaps. So I think the main appeal of this application would be for institutions like museums or galleries, perhaps they can really bring people together. And I think there's even like a commercial approach that can be a commercial value that can be approached. But right now we are focused on one experience because that's the only thing that we had time for. So yeah, that's why we went with Prague Golem, because it's one of the stories that's really anonymous with our city, and we wanted to show everybody, that experience.
So it seems like the advice from our teams this week are manage your expectations and planning is key, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So my next question is for Stu. You started developing a really interesting sci-fi background for your game. Where would you like to take your game in the future to build further on that story? And was there a specific feature in the ARDK that you wanted to dive deeper into?
So, yeah, the focus of our game really was about being in the right place at the right time to collect loot from this object called the Star Drop. And where we kind of wanted to take the game was, once you start collecting that loot, you can use the loot to fabricate various tools or seeds to create a biodiversity down on the surface of the planet to fight off a nemesis called the Darkbite. But where I sort of wanted to take that was giving players the power to choose whether to grow organic life forms, which are like carbon-based or silicon-based or crystalline, and sort of create a sort of territorial faction-based game on Earth with a virtual overlay of various life forms growing out from the surface, and kind of create this sort of faction-based versus game. I thought that could be really interesting and kind of have a nice science fiction twist. We did delve into the segmentation feature, but we didn't go in depth with that, so I'd really like to push that feature and see how far it could be taken. Something I thought was quite interesting was being able to recognize water with the segmentation, which I never got to test out, but I'd like to go and see how that works and how reliable it is, and see if that can be used as a benefit to this sort of ecosystem gardening game that we plan to put in very soon.
Well, I love the sci-fi aspect to it, and I'm excited to see how that expands in the future with this project. So my next question is for Darian. What was your biggest takeaway about the ARDK from the Jam this week?
So first, your projects really look amazing, I must say. Sorry, I'm first seeing the projects with other teams, and I'm really happy to be in this kind of environment. For this really looks awesome. Regarding the ARDK, you can feel that it's still in beta, but it's definitely in late beta, let's put it that way. So there are still some little issues that you can have with the RDK, but in general it was really mostly plug and play solution for most stuff. As I said, multiplayer part where we were connecting augmented reality and virtual reality, that part really went seamlessly. The segmentation a little less so, and meshing is really awesome. So it was really great to work with a new technology like this that is kind of stable.
Kind of stable. Operative word here. So I'll toss that question now to Tomas. What was your biggest takeaway about the ARDK from your Jam Week?
I think I have the same experience as Darian. Networking worked flawlessly, but there were some issues in the beginning, specifically with regards to linking the editor instance to the real-world device, which didn't work out quite as I expected. And I thought I had some issues in my code, but it turned out that it's just a limitation of the SDK. And once I built the app onto two devices, it worked perfectly. So networking, even if it has a slightly steeper learning curve, once you get hang of it, it's very easy to implement. And I really enjoyed using it. When it comes to semantic segmentation, we also, first, we wanted to overlay the entirety of Sky, but that turned to be difficult, especially given the weather conditions that we have in Prague, because we have a bit of cloudy weather, and it seems that the semantic segmentation has some issues with clouds. So when it comes to depth occlusion, I think that was the biggest issue for us. So we found out that it was very dependent on the weather condition and the environment that you're in, and it also depended a lot on the device you're using. So, for instance, when I use it on my iPhone SE 2nd Gen, it didn't perform well in certain situations, but my colleague with an iPhone 12 had far less issues.
So you bring up a great point about the semantic segmentation as it regards to the changing weather patterns. Maybe that could be something that is addressed in the future in this kit, and hopefully it'll offer you more opportunities to do more things with expanding your world. So take notes, Niantic. We're talking about changing weather patterns here. So my next question it's the same question. It's for you, Stuart. What was your biggest takeaway about the ARDK from your Jam Week?
My biggest takeaway has to be the occlusion. Using the meshing feature is just really good. You know, you can scan a wall, if it's a short wall especially, and then put an object behind there and you get a really nice crisp line, and it looks really good. The semantic occlusion is not quite as reliable, but it's still very good. And if you have objects that are quite far away, which are not capable of being scanned by the device up close, yeah, that works really well as well. As mentioned by the other guys, it's not quite as stable as you might want, but there's a feeling that it's going to be really great if they can actually, you know, get the small bugs out of the system and make it a little bit more steady and less jittery. But nonetheless, yeah, there's lots of potential there for that to grow and become just as good as the meshing feature.
So let's stay on that train of thought for a second, Stuart. Where would you like to see the Lightship platform go from here? And are there any other new features you'd like to see Niantic add?
I would like to see shared meshing, sort of like persistent data stored in the cloud. And so users could kind of scan areas and then share that data with other users, and some sort of maybe recognition systems for, say, features within those areas. So that could be a statue or a fountain or something along those lines, without actually using, you know, using 3D objects for recognition rather than just 2D surfaces. That would be really interesting because you could create some very engaging, interactive sort of experiences that could be played by many players at the same time in various locations, which might be, you know, popular spaces in a city or in a park. That would be really interesting. And then you could actually gamify a space rather than make a game that can be played anywhere.
That's great. So I'll turn that question now to Tomas. Where would you like to see Lightship go in the future? And are there any features you'd like to see Niantic add?
I have to agree with Stuart here. So landmark recognition is definitely my first pick. It's something that we could use in our app. Right now we only have geofencing implemented, so we kind of depend on that in order to gauge how close a user is to a specific area. So if we are able to scan certain famous landmark, like perhaps one of the synagogues in our experience, I think it'd be way easier than having to depend on GPS coordinates.
It'll certainly open up a lot of possibilities. What do you think, Dadian? What are some things you'd like to see Niantic add to the Lightship platform as it goes forward?
Yeah, I think that Stuart and Tomas already covered it. We are all waiting for the persistent augmented reality cloud. So please, Niantic, give us the augmented reality persistent cloud, because everybody that is working in the XR, I think that any of us has really big ideas for AR cloud. And after that, please, Niantic, give us the AR glasses. We are after that waiting for your AR glasses. So Niantic, we are waiting for you. Your move.
So we have two great sound bites from Dadian across this jam. We have the Holy Grail of AR and Niantic, we are waiting for you. I'm going to put that on the website. So this has been a great discussion. Thank you all again for sharing your thoughts, taking the time to chat with me, and congratulations to all three of you and your teams for a successful jam.
I love that our developers are so excited about Lightship that they already have like 25 different opinions about what else they want from it.
It's like seeing kids in a candy store. They're like, okay, but for next time, I totally want to see all of these things so I can play with even more possibilities. It's so fun to see how excited they are about this technology.
Yeah, totally. Now, Holly, we saw the debut of 5 different games and experiences from our European dev teams today. What were some of the standouts and some of the highlights for you?
You know, there are so many incredible ideas that have manifested over this week, and I am so blown away, as I always am at the end of these weeks with these teams. I think the ones that are really sticking out for me personally, definitely it's going to be Delta Reality. Um, Using real-time meshing to convert the landscape into a digital one, and how they're trying to mesh AR and VR together, which is such an ambitious project, and yet they seem to be doing just fine. I feel like their work, and as well as the work of Invisible Toys with their AR escape room, I feel like those two are kind of standing out for me. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I love how Yord put together this local legend exploration. Part of what we're doing here with the Lightship Global Jam is to see how AR can do more than just games, and how it can help us, get folks outside exploring the world around them in exciting and different and interesting ways. And in this case, also in a way that's kind of educational, and exploring sort of the Jewish quarter of Prague. So that one was definitely a standout for me. Blossom World looked super, super cool as a fan of sci-fi, and just seeing, everything sort of come to life all throughout the world. Same thing with Starbloom. I mean, a lot of times you'll see these different games and experiences after just one week, and there'll be things like boxes and just like sort of placeholders for a lot of what the vision of what the final gamer experience could look like. And in the case of both Blossom World and Starbloom, you really got a sense of how even visually these experiences transform the reality of the world around you. So many cool highlights and so many different kinds of applications of the specific features of the Lightship technology too.
It's so fascinating to see how across 5 teams they're all given the same set of tools, and the vastly different projects that come out of them just from their own ideas and their applications of their skill sets. And I am very, very excited to see if they continue with these projects. I totally want to play every single one of these whenever they're ready.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's what I love most about jams like this one. We're all about just sort of giving developers the support, the funding, the connection, and the feedback and resources they need to let their ideas run wild. So you can see how there are aspects of the team members that are present for each of these individual teams, and their backgrounds coming through in these different projects. You can never predict where any of these projects are going to go when you just start out a jam. And it's so cool to finally see these developers make their imprint in AR with Lightship. These are sort of the early results that we get to see, and it's exciting times.
It's always
Cool.
super fun too when I see the intros, the intro videos for the teams, and they have things that they love behind them. They're collections of games and collectibles, and you can actually see in a few of the things that they have displayed the influence of that in the projects too, which is so cool. So it's really amazing that they get the support that they need to turn these ideas into reality, just like you said.
Absolutely. Well, this was leg 2 of our 3-leg multi-month journey through the Lightship Global Jam. Let's take a look at our upcoming event dates. If you are in the US or in Europe and you missed out on a chance to be a part of the Lightship Global Jam, no worries whatsoever. Head on over to niantic.dev. That's niantic.dev. You can see it on your screen right there to sign up for the beta and get your hands on the Lightship ARDK. Let's start building now. You don't need to be a part of this jam in order to get going. And if you are a developer in Japan and you're tuning in, we are still accepting applications and checking through devs and bringing them on board for our Japan leg of the journey coming up August 29th through September 4th. So if you'd like to be a part of the Lightship Global Jam and you're a developer in Japan, head to lightshipglobaljam.com. And like I said, for everybody else, head on over to niantic.dev. That's where you can sign up for the beta, get your hands on the technology, and start building the future of AR. So here we are, Holly. It is the end of leg 2 of the Lightship Global Jam journey. We got to see now 9 different games and experiences across the US and Europe. What are some of your takeaways now that you've seen multiple teams, multiple games, multiple experiences in a technology that no one else really has had access to up until now?
Well, I feel like I have to bring up, it was one of the devs that called this the Wild West of development. And I think that's amazing because it really is. And there's nothing more exciting than watching very passionate minds attack a project with brand new technology. They're paving the way for the future of AR. They're adding to their skill sets and they're challenging themselves. And it's always such a special thing to really see. My favorites are always the closing streams because we get to see everything they did over that week and how they grew. And I like seeing the little highlight reels of them working on their projects. As always, it's such a pleasure to get to talk to these devs and find out what their creative process is, how they tackle challenges, and just pick their brain about the process in general. So this has always been a joy, and my takeaway is always that there's really no limitations to what a bunch of sleep-deprived devs can do.
Totally. And a reminder for folks that might be newer or younger developers or just tuning in to check out what's going on. Apps and games take months, but often years to put together from start to finish. And so these games and experiences were all built out in just 1 week. So keep that in mind when you're taking a look here. It is a huge accomplishment to get to where these developers got to with this brand new technology in such a short period of time. And it is really just the beginning. All right, Holly. Well, I think we are at the end of our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us and for hosting and shepherding these devs through the panels. It's been really great to get these insights from folks along the way.
Absolutely. I had so much fun. It's always such a pleasure for me to get to host with you and to get to talk to these amazing teams. So thank you so much, first of all, to our 5 teams, Yord, Tough Nut to Crack, Delta Reality, Invisible Toys, and Be Loudest for your participation in this jam. You have so much to be proud of. Pat yourselves on the back and get some sleep because you have earned it. We are so proud of you. And thank you to Niantic and Playcrafting for organizing this incredible jam with so much support for these teams across the European and North American leg. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the Japanese leg of this jam. Thank you so much to Dan for co-hosting with me once again. And if you are interested in jamming, Playcrafting does this sort of thing a lot. So you should definitely be following them on Twitter at Playcrafting to find out when their next event will be. And as Dan mentioned before, if you are interested in the future of this jam specifically, if you are a Japanese dev, you can head over to lightshipglobaljam.com in order to see if your team qualifies for the next leg of this jam. It's going to be super exciting. And that's going to be at the end of this month. So I think that's going to do it for us, right? Any other remarks, Dan?
Yeah, I think we are all set on the European leg of the journey. I'd say for folks that are tuning in, we have more coming up here on the Playcrafting Twitch channel. Later this weekend, we will be streaming live from the Play NYC convention in Manhattan. We have 2 full days of gameplay, tournaments, charity, like raising money for great causes. So definitely tune in to Playcrafting on Twitch this weekend, August 7th and 8th. And then we'll be back here on the channel later on in the month with a whole new crop of devs and games and experiences for our Japan leg of the journey. So lots to look forward to. Definitely keep on coming back. We want as many people playing games, playing experiences, and making games and experiences as possible. So definitely tune in and stay tuned because we have a lot more to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.